Gaudy Night. The night of a college rejoicing or grand feast, particularly at Oxford. See also Antony and Cleopatra, Act 3, Scene 13, line 183. Let's have one other Gaudy Night.
The Shrewsbury College Gaudy this year. I have to go abroad for a rather urgent operation, and it might be some time before the chance comes my way again.
Mary Stokes, pretty and dainty, the social centre of her year, had been a most unlikely friend for me at Oxford, where I was gawky and awkward, and anything but generally popular. Oxford. Mary had never missed a college reunion or a Gaudy. But I'd never gone back, at first because I loved Oxford too much, and a clean break seemed better than a slow wrenching away, and then because I was wholly occupied earning my own living. And then...
Prisoner at the bar. How do you plead? Guilty or not guilty?
What would the women of Shrewsbury College say to me, who had taken a first in English and who had gone to London to write mystery novels, to live with a man I wasn't married to, and to be put on trial for killing him, and to be saved from the gallows by Lord Peter Wimsey?
I happened to hear about the case and all that, and I thought there might be something I could do, don't you know?
Oh, be damned to what they'll think I'll go. Nothing could be worse than I've been hurt already. I'll have to find my MA hood. What on earth did I do with it? I haven't set eyes on it since I took my degree, but I know I kept it. At least I could arrive in Oxford in my own little car, but I still felt a wave of apprehension as I crossed Magdalen Bridge, the iron hand of the past grasping at my entrails.
You're in the Burley building, Miss Vane. Second floor.
Thank you, Paget.
Good to see you back here, Miss Vane.
I dreaded meeting anyone I knew. I was in no mood for reminiscent gossiping. I bathed, put on a black frock that seemed suitably sober for the occasion, pulled my MA gown round my shoulders and adjusted its hood of crimson silk. At any rate, they can't take this away. Whatever I have done, this remains. Scholar, Master of Arts, Domina, senior member of this university.
Harriet! Oh, it's so wonderful to see you again after all these years.
The moment I saw Mary, I knew it was all a great mistake. She was pathetically pleased to see me, but we had nothing to say to each other. Marriage had stifled that bright, agile mind, and all we could do was to chat politely about my books and her children. I thankfully allowed myself to be scooped up by the Dean, who looked remarkably youthful to be carrying so much responsibility on her shoulders.
So splendid you were able to come.
Rather brave of me, don't you think, Miss Martin?
Oh, nonsense. Nobody bothers about all that. And the warden's longing to see you. She simply loved the sounds of crime. Let's go and see if we can catch her before the Vice-Chancellor arrives.
She piloted me through the brightly chattering women to the warden, Dr. Baring, quietly imposing in her scarlet and grey.
Delighted to see you here, Miss Vane. I was up all night reading the fountain pen mystery.
I wouldn't want to be responsible for depriving you of your sleep, Warden.
Now, tell me, have you had an opportunity to look at the new library wing?
It's certainly going to be a great improvement. When will it be finished?
By Easter, we hope. Perhaps we shall see you at the opening.
I shall look forward to it.
But I must be off. I can hardly be late for the Vice-Chancellor.
Gowns, gowns, gowns. It was difficult to recognize people after 10 years or more, though far too many of them had no difficulty in recognizing me.
How do you think of all your plots? I can't imagine how you dream up some of the things you write about.
The Vice-Chancellor, surrounded by the female dons in reverential attitude suggestive of a prayer meeting, gave a little speech adorned with classical tags and unveiled a sundial. From out of the crowd, Miss Lydgate, my former tutor, emerged to greet me. It always seemed to me that, as any student of literature must, she knew all of the sins of the world by name, but it was doubtful whether she recognized them when she met them in real life.
You really must come and see me on Sunday morning. It is so heartening to find someone who keeps up a scholarly standard of English, even in writing mystery fiction. Mr. Vine is also a fervent admirer of yours.
Don't think I recall a Mr. Vine.
Oh, how silly of me. You can't possibly know her. She's our new research fellow.
I remember the name now. Wasn't she head of one of the big provincial colleges?
Yes, she was provost of Flamborough for 3 years. But it really wasn't her kind of thing, too much administration. It wore her out. But come and meet her. She's been cornered by that frightful Miss Gubbins.
Miss Devine's iron-grey locks were supported by a forest of hairpins, which gave her something of the air of the White Queen.
Dear me, what a very uninspired young woman Miss Gubbins is. She seems to think I should have torn Mr. Winterleg to pieces for a trifling error in his book on the Earl of Essex.
But I sensed that hers was a mind as immovable as granite.
It's a great mistake to see one's own subject out of proportion to its background. The error should be corrected, of course.
Miss Devine, I've brought along somebody I know you're anxious to meet. This is Miss Vane.
Oh, how delightful. Oh, do let me say how much I enjoyed your last book. I was discussing it with Professor Higgins, and he suggested a most interesting possibility.
So that's where you've got to. The Vice-Chancellor's taken himself off so we can get rid of this filthy old bombazine and show off our party frocks. Give me your gown, Miss Vane. Has it got your name on it?
Yes, it has.
You too, Miss Devine.
Oh, thank you.
I'll chuck them into the senior common room.
Yes, I can't. Oh, dear. Is my hair untidy?
It is a trifle. Let me help you.
Thank you. It's very kind.
The afternoon passed off reasonably painlessly. The dons fell ravenously on the cakes and ices. The only unpleasantness was provided by Miss Hilliard, the history tutor who had never liked me.
Well, Miss Vane, you've had some very varied experiences since we saw you last.
At the Gaudy dinner, Mary Stokes had grabbed the place next to mine. I hoped that the screeching of 200 female voices would make conversation impossible, but Mary still managed to come up with a question I'd been praying no one would ask.
Do tell us about Lord Peter, Harriet. What is he really like?
Seeing that he got me out of prison and probably saved me from being hanged, I'm naturally bound to find him delightful.
Oh, I'm so sorry. I didn't think.
And I did not fare much better when I took coffee with the Dean and members of the Senior Common Room, where I was obliged to give a summary of the book I was working on. A fellow, who answered to the name of Miss Barton and who seemed rather obsessed with criminal reform, pounced upon me before I had a chance to finish.
Forgive me, Miss Vane, for speaking frankly, but after your own horrible experience, I wonder that you care about writing that kind of book.
I know what you're thinking, that anyone with properly sensitive feelings would rather scrub floors for a living. But I should scrub floors very badly, and I write detective stories rather well. I don't see why proper feelings should prevent me doing my proper job.
Oh, but surely you must feel that terrible crimes ought to be taken seriously, and not just made into an intellectual game. I mean, this Peter Wimsey...
And suddenly everyone, the Dean included, began to ask me questions about Peter, and I was hard-pressed to keep my temper. Fortunately, from the far end of the room, the bursar raised the subject of the college drains, on which all the fellows seemed to have something to say, and it was soon time to retire. Mr. Vine insisted on walking back with me to Burley Building.
Miss Vane, I admired you for speaking as you did tonight. I imagine you come across a number of people who have very decided views about what you ought to feel about your very unpleasant experiences. It is fatal to pay the smallest attention to them.
Yes, but everything begins to take on such a different aspect here in Oxford. Should I really be churning out trivial detective stories or devoting myself to some form of academic study? How is one to know which things are really of overmastering importance?
We can only know that when they've overmastered us. Good night.
And she vanished with her long stooping stride beneath the hall archway. I was too restless to go to bed, and for some minutes I paced to and fro in the quad. My eye was caught by a sheet of paper fluttering across the grass. I caught it up and took it inside to look at it in the light. It was a childish drawing of a naked female figure inflicting savage and humiliating outrage upon someone in a cap and gown. A nasty, dirty and lunatic scribble. There was only one proper fate for such a thing.
Oh dear, I'm afraid everything's in a fearful muddle. I am working on a new theory of prosody in English verse, from Beowulf to Bridges, and it has all got rather out of hand.
Sunday, it is said, is invariably the best part of a Gaudy, a time to talk at leisure to old friends, and I'd been invited to call on Miss Lydgate.
The problem is that my system of notation involved 12 different varieties of type. But when it was all set up in proof, I realized that parts of it were completely in the wrong place. I do find the practical side of bookmaking so confusing. Oh, but I'm neglecting you most shamefully. I'm sure you would like a cup of tea, and my scout is still out in the pantry. Annie!
Yes, Miss Lydgate?
Would you please bring in a second cup for Miss Vane?
Yes, of course, madam.
Such a sweet woman, but I'm afraid we may lose her. Miss Hilliard does not approve of married women working in college.
Here you are, Miss Vane.
Thank you. Thank you, Annie. But the poor woman is a widow with 2 children. Fortunately, they are boarded out in St. Aldate's, but she really ought not to be in service at all. Now then, I cannot remember. Do you take sugar?
All things considered, it had not been too bad. I was saddened by how many friends from whom so much had been expected had voluntarily submerged themselves in domesticity. But as my car wound its way home through the Chilterns, I knew that Oxford held no terrors for me now, and that I could return there without misgivings. I found a pleasant pub for lunch where I ate with a good appetite. And then I remembered that my cigarettes were still in my gown. I reached down to the bottom of the long sleeve and came across a folded piece of paper. "You dirty murderess, aren't you ashamed to show your face?" The letters were cut from the headlines of a newspaper. I took a match and set light to it. Harriet Vane?
I was wondering whether you could find the time to dine with me one evening.
Oh, thank you, Peter, but I don't know whether—
You mean you're fully booked?
Of course not. I could manage Saturday.
Shall we say 8 o'clock at the Egotists' Club?
I'd been rather disconcerted by the almost prurient interest shown about Peter at Oxford, and I went to meet him in a belligerent frame of mind, complaining of the way in which some of my contemporaries had compromised their minds and their freedom for the sake of matrimony.
Tiresome, ain't it? But what are you going to do about the people who are cursed with both hearts and brains? James?
Yes, my lord.
Could you rescue Miss Vane's napkin?
Of course, ma'am.
Oh, thank you. I'm sorry I keep on dropping things. This silk's too slippery. You see, I'm beginning to believe they've got to choose.
Not compromise?
I don't think compromise works.
That I should live to hear any person of English blood blaspheme against compromise. What's the matter? Is your napkin gone again?
No, it's my bag this time. It's under your left foot.
In view of the fact that I've got 2 cracked ribs, I'd rather not try to pick it up myself. Once I get down, I shall probably never get up again.
Why on earth didn't you say so before, instead of sitting there like a martyr? How did you manage to do it?
I fell off a wall in a most inartistic manner. There was a plug ugly on the other side with a gun. It wasn't so much as the wall as the wheelbarrow at the bottom.
How beastly for you. What became of the bloke with the gun?
I'm afraid personal complications won't trouble him any longer.
Well, I'm very glad it wasn't the other way round.
How good of you to say so. That shows how hard it is even for the most powerful brain to be completely heartless. Ah, now let me see. It's not my day for asking you to marry me, since I agreed to confine myself to Guy Fawkes Night, All Fool's Day, and the anniversary of the King's coronation. So we'll have coffee in the smoking room, if you don't mind. This chair is getting as hard as that wheelbarrow.
Your bag, madam.
Thank you.
2 old brandies, if you please, James.
Very good, my lord. This postcard was found under the table in the dining room, madam.
Thank you. I must have stuffed it down the side of my bag before I came out.
What is it?
Nothing.
Anonymous dirt, I take it. But all the Philip Boyes business was ages ago. Do you still get much of that kind of thing?
Oh, not so often now. I found one stuffed down the sleeve of my gown in Oxford, and this card was in this morning's post. I only wish I'd looked at it before I got here.
May I see it? Ask your boyfriend with the title if he likes arsenic in his soup. What did you give him to get you off? God, what muck. So that's what I'm letting you in for.
It doesn't matter. You can't do anything about it.
I might have had the consideration not to expose you to it all for the past 5 years by hanging round your neck like the old man of the sea. Heaven knows you tried hard enough to get rid of me. You'd have been perfectly justified in telling me that I was making life impossible for you.
Should I? Do you expect me to tell you that you were compromising my reputation when I had none to lose? To point out that you'd saved me from the gallows, thank you very much, but left me in the pillory?
I see. The plain fact is that all I'm doing is to make life a little more bitter for you. It was generous of you not to say so. I'll admit defeat and say goodbye.
Your brandies, my lord.
Thank you, James. Well, don't look so tragic about it, Harriet. Your coffee's getting cold.
Peter, I came here tonight with the firm intention of telling you to chuck it. But I'm damned if I'll have you wiped out by plug-uglies wielding guns or by anonymous letter-writers.
Harriet, give me your hand and we'll fight on till we drop. No, none of that. You can't cry in this club. If you disgrace me like this, I'll get into a row with the committee. They'll probably close the ladies' rooms altogether.
I'm sorry, Peter.
And don't put sugar in my coffee.
Months drifted by. I heard nothing from Shrewsbury College, though there was an item in one of the dailies about a bonfire of students' gowns in the quad. And then 3 weeks before the end of the Hilary term, I had a letter from the Dean.
My dear Miss Vane, I am writing to ask you whether you will be able to get up to Oxford for the opening of the new library wing on March the 1st. We are particularly anxious, I am speaking for the warden and myself, that you should come because we would be glad to have your advice about a most unpleasant thing that has been happening here. The fact is, we are being victimized by a cross between a poltergeist and a poison pen. So if you could possibly snatch time to give us the benefit of your experience...
The benefit of my experience? An instance of unworldly tactlessness. Calling in a specialist rather as one would call in someone to unblock the drains. But my curiosity was aroused and we met for lunch at the Women's University Club.
Anonymous letters. Perfectly beastly, some of them. Either sent through the post or dropped in at the box in the lodge. Some have been pushed under people's doors at night, so it looks as though it must be someone in college.
But how are they written?
They're mostly done by pasting together bits out of newspapers.
Are they merely obscene, or are they abusive and threatening?
All three, but mostly threatening. Anything from public exposure to the gallows.
And when did you get the first one?
The first one I definitely know about was sent to Miss Devine in the Michaelmas term. It was her first term here, and of course we thought it must be someone who had a grudge against her. But several people got them shortly afterwards, and we decided it couldn't be that.
And this poltergeist you mentioned, what was all that about?
Well, you probably read about the bonfire of undergraduate gowns in the quad. We thought it was just a rack at first, but now we're not so sure. But the real outrage is the attack on Miss Lidgett's English prosody. You saw some of it when you came for the Gaudy, a really colossal work. Well, it's been defaced and heavily obliterated. Some portions of it virtually destroyed. She was practically in tears. And the alarming thing is that it looks as if someone in college must be responsible. And we're so terrified about next week with Lord O'Capple coming to open the library. Suppose someone sends him a poison pen letter. You can see why we would be so grateful if you could come.
I drove into Oxford on the day before the inauguration of the library. The warden had called a meeting of the members of the senior common room in her office, apparently for my benefit.
On the table are all the scraps of evidence we have been able to assemble. The letters, 15 in all, some highly obscene drawings, mostly pushed under doors, and the distressingly mutilated remains of Miss Lidgett's English prosody. Perhaps, Miss Hilliard, you would be so good as to explain the circumstances of its disappearance?
Miss Lidgett had asked me to go through the manuscript to verify certain historical allusions. On the Saturday morning, I took the pages up to the old library, worked there for some time, I was alone in there, and then went off to lunch, leaving them on the table. When I returned, they'd disappeared. I thought at first Miss Lidgett had taken them to make a few more additions.
But I was in London. There was a book I needed to consult in the British Museum.
And on the Monday morning, the pages were found spread over the floor of the senior common room.
Every single page had been defaced with thick copying ink, and the most obscene things had been scrawled on them. Words I never knew existed.
But surely, Miss Hilliard, didn't I see you entering the senior common room just before chapel on Monday morning?
I only went as far as the door, Miss Devine, in search of my gown. And then I remembered I'd left it in the Queen Elizabeth building. Are you implying that I defaced the papers myself?
Oh, no, nothing of the kind. But if you had gone in and seen the papers, it would have provided a terminus quo. Or, alternatively, ad quem for the investigation.
And that, apart from a large bottle of copying ink which had been stolen from the office of the college secretary, was all the material evidence available, apart from some scribblings on the wall of the lavatories which had been promptly effaced.
Since nothing has come to light to suggest any incidents before the beginning of the October term, our suspicions have naturally been focused on the first-year students, although there is no evidence to support
I'm
them.
afraid, Warden, that I am in a position to rule out the first year, and in fact the majority of the students altogether. You see, this whole business began much earlier than you think, at the Gaudy, when most undergraduates had gone down.
Could you explain what you mean by that, Miss Vane?
And so, with some misgivings, I told how I had found the obscene drawing left on the grass of the quad after the Gaudy dinner, and of the poison pen letter which had been stuffed down the sleeve of my gown while it was in the senior common room.
Thank you, Miss Vane. I am extremely sorry that you should have had so unpleasant an experience. But your information, of course, narrows down the field a great deal. If the culprit is someone who attended the Gaudy, it must have been either one of the very few students who were still in college awaiting their vivas, or
one of ourselves.
Oh, surely it is far more likely that it is one of the scouts. I cannot believe that any of us would be capable of anything so disgusting.
So far as I can see, none of us can be taken on trust.
Well, the question remains, what steps do we propose to take? We have asked Miss Vane's advice, and it seems to me that some private person should lend us assistance.
You mean we should call in a team of private detectives to snoop about the college? That's preposterous.
If I may make a suggestion, I propose that the evidence should be handed over to Miss Vane, since she is the only person who cannot possibly come under suspicion. Perhaps she would care to sleep on the matter and make us a report in the morning.
And so the meeting broke up. But it was all too evident that my own involvement in the affair was not altogether welcome.
You have contrived to cast the apple of discord among us with a vengeance. However, as you are so well accustomed to the receipt of anonymous communications, you are no doubt the fittest person to handle the situation.
In my case, Miss Hilliard, I only got what was to some extent deserved. But this is a very different matter. Miss Lydgate's English prosody could offend nobody.
Except some of the men whose theory she has attacked. However, unfortunately, circumstances seem to exclude the male sex from the scope of your inquiry.
If one was looking for a twisted mind, Miss Hilliard's was more than a little warped. And what evidence was there that she had ever left Miss Lydgate's manuscript in the old library at all?
How kind of you to bring back my poor proofs. But I'm afraid they're not much use to me. I shall simply have to try to reconstruct the whole thing from my rough notes.
Could I help you out at all? I'd gladly stay up for a week or two if it would do any good.
Oh, would you? Oh, how very kind. I cannot tell you what a tremendous help it would be. But would it not be trespassing on your own valuable time?
In fact, it served my purpose very well. If I were to pursue my investigation at Shrewsbury, Miss Lydgate's proofs would provide a very convenient excuse for staying on. The Dean had suggested that I slept on the problem, but sleep simply would not come that night. At 3 o'clock, I gave up altogether, got out of bed and sat at the window. I might as well keep an eye open for the figure of Poison Pen creeping across the quad. There was no moon, and nothing to be seen. Not even a late essay writer burning the midnight oil. But there was a light, a narrow band of light splitting from top to bottom one of the long windows of the new library. Should I investigate on my own, or wake up someone else? I made my way across to the main block, fumbling for the light switch. Along the corridor, a door labelled Miss Barton stood open, but the bedroom was empty. I made my way across to the main block, fumbling for the light switch. Along the corridor, a door labelled Miss Barton stood open, but the bedroom was empty. The light still shone in the library window, but while I was looking at it...
Oh, Miss Barton, I was looking for you. I saw a light in the new library. So did I. I've just been over to investigate. The door's locked. If you'll wait here and keep an eye open, I'll try to get in by one of the ground floor windows.
I waited there in the darkness, and after what seemed like an eternity, Miss Barton reappeared.
There's nobody in there. The key's gone, and there's a most frightful mess. Come and look. You'll have to climb in through the window. I had to break it open.
Oh, my God! That's torn it.
Whoever it is has made a very thorough job of it.
All the books had been dragged from the shelves and thrown on the floor. The pictures had been torn down, and the blank walls had been decorated with a frieze of grossly obscene drawings and inscriptions in foul language a foot high.
A fine sight to greet the eyes of Lord Oakapple. He's officially opening the library in 8 hours' time. What the devil are we going to do?
Miss Barton went off to find the Dean. I noticed that her dressing gown was covered in paint, but she may have got it climbing in over the newly decorated radiator. Whoever had done this thing must have paint all over them, but I could hardly search the whole college. It would cause a terrific scandal.
Mercy, what fools we were not to expect it. Of course it was the obvious thing to do, and if you hadn't spotted it, we wouldn't have found out until the Chancellor was on the doorstep. What would you advise?
My first reaction is turpentine, and the second is Paget.
My dear, you're perfectly right. Run over and get him. And then could you wake Miss Burrows? Fortunately, I have a spare key, the one made for Lord Oakapple's ceremonial opening.
The Dean is sorry to say, Paget, that somebody has been playing very disagreeable tricks in the new library.
Have they indeed, miss?
The whole place has been turned upside down, and some very vulgar words and pictures scrawled on the walls.
Very unfortunate, miss, that is.
It will all have to be cleaned off before the Chancellor arrives. Do you think you can manage it, Paget?
You leave it to me, miss.
Miss Burrows seemed more annoyed that all the books would have to be put back on the shelves than outraged by the vandalizing of the library. There was a strong smell of turps in her room, which she accounted for by having to wash paint off her hands when she'd been clearing up in the afternoon. Surely she could not have been responsible for the attack herself. But nothing and no one could be ruled out. Even Miss Lydgate might deliberately have destroyed her own papers to divert suspicion.
Paget has worked wonders. You'd hardly notice that anything untoward had ever happened. Fortunately, the Chancellor is very short-sighted. Will you be joining us all for lunch?
No, I think I'd better remain on the library balcony to keep an eye open for any further mischief.
A very wise precaution. I will arrange for Annie to bring you up a plateful of sandwiches.
How are your little girls getting on, Annie?
Oh, they're doing splendidly, madam. Oxford suits them, after living in a manufacturing town where we were before.
And do you enjoy working here?
It's all right. But some of those ladies are a bit queer. I always think of what it says in the Bible about much learning hath made thee mad.
What do you mean by that, Annie?
Well, you may have heard about rude words being written on the walls and nasty anonymous letters going round. Well, you'll find, madam, they've all happened since a certain person came into college.
What person?
One of those learned ladies, madam. You write detective stories, don't you, madam? Well, you'll find something in that lady's past. You may be sure of it.
There couldn't be much doubt whom she was talking about. Miss Devine. Rather eccentric, perhaps, but she did not look mad in the way that Poison Pen was mad. However, I could not rule her out. That evening the warden asked me to call on her.
We are all very grateful to you, Miss Vane, for rescuing us from what could have been a highly embarrassing situation. But how are we to make doubly sure that something of this kind does not happen again? I must make it clear that there can be no question of calling in the police. That would only result in ill-informed gossip. And even after all these years, there are those in this university who do not look kindly on the women's colleges.
Then I'm afraid the only solution is to call in a private detective agency.
I cannot think that would be very desirable. The college is a closed world, and intruders would not be received very sympathetically.
If that is the case, I suggest that I should stay on in college for a week or two, ostensibly to help Miss Lydgate with her book. I could then carry out a few investigations and keep a watchful eye on things.
That is a very generous offer. We shall all be considerably in your debt.
And so by day I did my best to bring some sort of order to Miss Lydgate's chaotic papers, and by night I snooped about the corridors or prowled round the college grounds. After a week or so, the place had become so quiet that I gave myself an evening off and went to a private dance given by an old friend living in North Oxford. Sometime after midnight, I let myself in by the side gate and started across the old quad. There was a glimmer of pale moonlight, by which I could make out the figure of a man, halfway up the eastern wall of the college.
Hell! We've been spotted! Look, get over, and I'll... Oh, blast, I've turned my ankle. It's a fair cop, Ma'am.
And what were you doing on our wall, sir?
Just having a bit of fun, you know. I took a bet I could hang my cap on the tip-top of the Shrewsbury beeches.
What was that?
I really couldn't say.
Oh, is she part of your bit of fun, too?
Look, I'm most frightfully sorry about this. I'm afraid she isn't very well, and we were trying to get her back to her room.
Oh, the girl's drunk.
Well, I'm afraid that's about it. There was a party in my friend's rooms, and when we realized she was a bit under the weather, we thought we'd better give her a hand. I wouldn't want her to get into trouble or anything.
As a matter of fact, you've been extraordinarily lucky. I'm not one of the dons. I'm simply staying in college.
Thank God for that.
Do you happen to know where this little fool's room is?
Well, as a matter of fact, I do. It's through that archway there, about halfway up the staircase.
Right, I'm going to get her out of harm's way, and then I'll unlock the gate for you.
How very sporting of you. Can I help?
No, I think you better wait for me inside the chapel. I'll be as quick as I can.
Is that you? I mean...
Yes. She'll be all right for the time being. What's the matter?
I don't think you're going to like this much.
Oh!
It's not as bad as it looks. Just an old bolster rigged out in a cap and gown and an old black dress.
Strung up with a knife stuck into it.
Morbid sort of imagination these girls have got, haven't they? There's a note attached to the knife.
Tristius haud illis monstrum nec saevia ulla pestis et ira.
I'm afraid I'm a bit rusty on the classics.
No viler monstrosity than they, no pest more atrocious did ever the wrath of God conjure up out of hell's swamp. Bird-bodied, girl-faced things they are, abominable their droppings, their hands are talons, their faces haggard with hunger, insatiable.
Well, that certainly means the scouts are out of it. I don't imagine they can have a close acquaintance with the third book of the Aeneid. Have you been able to ascertain where everyone was at the time?
I've checked the members of SCR. They all have alibis, none of them very watertight. And no one can identify the black dress. It's certainly never been seen in college.
I happened to look out of my window shortly after 12. Who was the young man you were bear leading?
As Sherlock Holmes said on another occasion, I think we should ask for an amnesty in that direction. But I suggest a row of revolving spikes along the wall of the Fellows' garden.
Point taken. I'll have a quiet word with the bursar.
I felt the need of a soothing influence, and in the afternoon I went to the service in Christchurch. Afterwards, as I was setting back across Tom Quad...
Good Lord! If it isn't my guardian angel from last night. Found any more corpses in chapel?
I haven't dared to look. But aren't you... I couldn't really see your face last night. Are you related to Peter Wimsey?
He's my uncle. Gerald St. George, at your service. Am I rather like him, then?
Yes, very like in some ways.
He'd come in uncommonly handy at the moment. You don't happen to know where he is?
He's in Rome, I believe.
Oh, Lord. That means a letter. And the family charm doesn't go ever so well in black and white.
Do I gather you anticipate an appeal to Uncle Peter's finer feelings?
That's about it. Of course, if the worst comes to the worst, I could always threaten to cut my throat, and then there'd be only the governor between Uncle Peter becoming the next Duke of Denver, and he wouldn't care for that a bit. No more bachelor nights in the Piccadilly flat, no more pretty Viennese singers. By the way, may I know whom I have the honour to thank for getting me out of last night's little escapade?
My name is Harriet Vane.
My God, what have I done? If Uncle Peter ever hears about this, I shall have to cut my throat.
It's my fault. I should have warned you.
Look here, for God's sake, forget all that rot about Viennese singers. I mean, it was 6 years ago at least. Look, let me make amends.
Have lunch with me in my rooms on Friday. I'll lay on a bottle of Niersteiner 23. Say you'll come.
I was starting to grow weary of my nightly patrols, and there had not been as much as an obscene drawing on a lavatory wall for 4 nights. But on the 5th, when I was sitting at my window making notes for a possible thesis on Sheridan Le Fanu, my light suddenly went out. I went out into the corridor to find the whole building in darkness.
It's a poltergeist! It must be!
Someone's pulled the fuse out from under the stairs!
There she goes, running across the quad! After her!
One by one, the college buildings were plunged into darkness. Everyone was running wildly about. As I crossed New Quad, I ran into the Dean waving her torch.
The lights have gone off in the Elizabeth building.
Well, that at least gives you an alibi.
Let's make for the main staircase. We might be able to cut her off there.
But everyone seemed to have the same idea, and the entrance was blocked with a crowd of students. There was Miss Lydgate clutching her proofs to her bosom.
Nobody's going to get them this time, even if I die for it.
And Paget was standing guard over the fuse box, brandishing a rolling pin.
Have you seen what they've done to the fuse boxes? Reached open with a chisel they were. But they won't get this one.
And when all the lights were switched back on again, every building showed the trail of damage.
Books torn up and thrown through the window, broken ink bottles.
And all the silver cups had been hurled at the portraits in the hall, and the bust of the Reverend Melchizedek Entwistle smashed to pieces. At least that's something to be grateful for.
And in the SCR, someone has written "ha, ha" across the mirror, and a vulgar epithet with which I will not sully my lips.
Friday came, but when I arrived at Christchurch for my lunch with Viscount St. George, I was told he had been taken to hospital with a cut head and an injured shoulder, the result of a motor accident. There was a letter for him from Peter in his pigeonhole, which I thought might be important.
Sealing wax and the family crest. Uncle Peter at his stuffiest.
Shall I open it for you?
I wish you would. And will you tell me what it says? What with a bandage over one eye and the other pretty bloodshot, I'm in no shape for reading letters. Any enclosure?
No, nothing.
How does it begin?
My dear St. George.
Oh, Lord, then he's really furious.
Hadn't we better leave it till tomorrow?
No, I'd better know the worst.
If I rightly understand your rather incoherent letter, you have contracted a debt of honour for a sum which you do not possess, and have settled it with a cheque which you have no money to meet.
I'm getting a frightful headache. Just give me the gist of it.
He won't lend you any money.
What am I going to do?
But he will cover your cheques.
Oh, cheque or cheques?
Cheques, and he will come to see you when he returns to England.
Oh, I don't like the sound of that. Look, do you think you could write and tell him about my accident? It might soften him up a bit.
Yes, I can certainly do that. And now you'd better try and get some sleep.
No, stay a bit longer. That very nasty object we met with in your chapel the other night, was it something to do with the ghost thing that's been playing merry hell about the place?
No one's supposed to know about that.
Well, the word has got about, you know. And I have a kind of idea I may have met your ghost.
Met her?
Yes, just after the beginning of term. You see, well, the other night wasn't the first time I've climbed into Shrewsbury.
I rather gathered that.
Only for a bet, of course. And I was pushing through that bit of garden when somebody hopped out from behind a bush and grabbed me.
What was this person like?
It was in black, and had a bit of black stuff twisted round its head, and its eyes looked beastly. And it said, in a voice like glue, "We murder beautiful boys like you and eat their hearts out."
Are you making this up?
No, honestly I'm not. And then she said the other one had fair hair too. She had a kind of hungry look about her, if you know what I mean. So I said, "Excuse me, but I'd better be going now," and I pulled free. She was uncommonly strong, and legged it over the wall.
How tall was she?
Well, about your height, or a bit less. I don't know whether I should recognize her again. She didn't give me the impression of being a bright young thing. That's about all I can tell you, but I'd watch my step if I were you when you go walking through that garden at night.
As I made my way out, a young woman with an intoxicated-looking hat and bright purple fingernails, carrying an armful of rather exhausted-looking roses, brushed past me to be greeted without much enthusiasm by Viscount St. George. I reflected that it might be rather an onerous position to be his aunt. 2 days later, term came to an end.
So when are you off back to town?
Soon after lunch. I'm all packed and ready to go.
Of course, if anything should happen in the vacation.
I rather doubt it will. Not a big enough audience for our poison pen. A major public scandal is what she's aiming at, I imagine. But if something does happen, it will narrow the field considerably.
Yes, most of the SCR will be away. What are you planning to do about next term?
I've been rather thinking of coming back to Oxford altogether for a time. The place gets you. It's so completely uncommercial. I think I'm becoming a bit shrill in my mind. I'm rather hoping that Oxford might mellow it.
Well, it would be a great blessing if you could come back for part of the term anyway. And you can't leave Miss Lydgate now, till the proofs are in the printer's hands.
I'm almost afraid to let her loose. She is dissatisfied with her chapter on Gerard Manley Hopkins.
Oh, no.
So I shall have to come back to cope with that, whatever else happens.
Excuse me, miss, I'm sorry to interrupt you while you're loading up the car, but the Dean thought you ought to see this newspaper. Some letters seem to have been cut out of it.
Thank you, Paget. Where was it found?
In Miss Devine's fireplace, miss.
Is Miss Devine still in college?
She left by the 10:10, miss.
I'd better keep it, I think. Does Miss Devine usually take the Daily Trumpet?
Oh, I shouldn't think so, miss. It would be more likely the Times or the Telegraph.
I agree. And anybody could have dropped it in her fireplace, but thank you, Paget.
Thank you, miss. Have a safe journey home.
It proved nothing, but it gave me something to think about. Town seemed empty and uninteresting. I saw my agent and my publisher and signed a contract for serial rights, but my new mystery novel was getting decidedly bogged down. I had 5 suspects, neatly confined in an old watermill with no means of ingress or egress except by a narrow plank bridge, and all provided with motives and plausible alibis for a pleasantly original kind of murder. But I could no longer ignore the fact that human beings were not like that. What you really got was 200 or so people running round a college like frightened rabbits, and in the midst of it all, not a plain, understandable murder, but an unmeaning and inexplicable lunacy. I was persuaded against my better judgment to attend a literary party in a hot and crowded room where all the assembled authors were interested only in discussing their publishers, their agents, their own sales, other people's sales, and the fickleness of the Book of the Month selectors. Soon I began to feel an acute homesickness for Oxford. I longed to give up the whole wretched crime-writing business and hide myself in the academic life. Carry on my thesis on Le Fanu, perhaps? After a couple of weeks, I rang up the bursar. My room was unoccupied, and there was no reason why I should not go back straight away. Oxford out of term time was wrapped in a withdrawn and sensitive beauty. No clamour of young voices echoed along her ancient stones. The tumult of flying bicycles was stilled. In Radcliffe Square, the camera slept like a cat in the sunshine, disturbed only by the occasional visits of slow-footed dons. The mellow bells soaring in tower and steeple told of time's flight through an eternity of peace. Morning in Bodley, drowsing among the brown and tarnished gilding of the volumes of Duke Humphrey's library. Long afternoons, taking an outrigger up the chair, or if the day were warmer, flicking swiftly in a canoe under Magdalen walls. Then back, with mind relaxed and body stretched and vigorous, to make toast by the fire. And then at night, the lit lamp and the drawn curtain, with the flutter of the turned page and the soft scrape of pen on paper. Now and again, I took out my dossier of the poison pen, but the whole damned problem seemed distant and unimportant. Walking one afternoon across Christchurch Meadow, I encountered 2 small flaxen-haired girls in the charge of a woman who seemed vaguely familiar. It was Annie, strangely unrecognisable without her cap and apron.
This one's Beatrice, and this is Carola. Say how do you do to Miss Vane.
How do you do, Miss Vane?
And what do you both want to do when you grow up?
I hope they'll be good wives and mothers, madam.
I want a motorcycle and I want to keep a garage.
You'll never get a husband, Beatrice, if you mess about in a garage getting all ugly and dirty.
I don't need a husband. I'd rather have a motorcycle.
She'll find out someday, won't she, madam?
All too soon, the dons began to return.
Thank God that's over. I've been having a most tedious time looking after my sister, who's having her first baby, if you please, at the age of 35.
Professor
Braithwaite has been casting a friendly eye over my prosody, and has very kindly pointed out that I have failed to take account of the spasmodics.
But they'd not been in college for more than a couple of hours before a grand old row broke out over the secretary having to stay away to look after her boy, who had measles.
I don't see what else you can expect if you give jobs to widows with children. Domestic preoccupations will always take precedence over their work here.
Yes, but the children must be fed and clothed and cared for, surely.
And Mrs. Goodwin is an excellent secretary. I should be sorry to lose her.
The plain fact is that everyone in this place has an inferiority complex about married women and children. For all your talk about careers and independence, you all believe in your hearts that we ought to abase ourselves before any woman who has fulfilled her natural functions.
It is natural, I suppose, to feel that married women lead a fuller life.
Then let them lead it. But if Mrs. Goodwin can't carry out her duties properly, she should resign. And just remember this, the last time she was away we had no trouble from anonymous letters and filthy drawings.
Bless my heart.
She is so prejudiced. I always think it's a very great pity she never married.
I should be very sorry for the poor man, I must say.
May morning on Magdalen Tower, greeted by the choristers with surprising fervour given the early hour. The sun had risen, red and angry. I leaned over the parapet, looking down at the heartbreaking beauty of the curve of the high street. Suddenly became aware of a young woman who was placing one knee on the stonework and pulling herself up to the parapet.
What do you think you're doing? I only wanted to look over.
Oh, that's pretty silly of you. You might get giddy and fall.
I'm so sorry. I didn't think.
Well, you should think. Is anyone with you?
No one.
I'm going down now, and I think you should come down too.
Very well.
You go first.
Yes. All right. I'm going.
A pity you didn't get her name. I trust it wasn't one of our girls.
I didn't recognise her, and she didn't seem to recognise me.
Then it probably wasn't. But it was most inconsiderate. Just think of the trouble it would have caused Magdalen.
We now had a new system of nightly patrols, and the poltergeist's activities were confined to drawings of humiliations inflicted upon mortarboarded figures. More curious was the mutilation of a novel by C.P. Snow, The Search.
Pages 321 to 340 have been ripped out. What is the point of it?
But the senior common room were more interested in the school sweepstake, in which we all drew a horse, a student who would be taking her final examination that term.
You've drawn Miss Newland. She's one of the favourites.
Yeah, it's been looking a bit seedy this term, trying too hard, I expect. I wouldn't be surprised if she were heading for a breakdown.
Oh, that's nonsense. Her work's brilliant. She looks a little pale, perhaps, but I expect it's the heat.
Why don't you come and take a look at her for yourself, Miss Vane? She's working in the old library.
Excellent. If we think she's looking under the weather, we can chase her out for the good of her soul.
Gracious, are you still here, Miss Newland? Haven't you had any dinner?
Oh, I'll take something later, Miss Martin. I want to get this paper finished.
Have you got a headache? You look as if you had.
I don't seem to be able to think. I forget things and go blank.
Of course you do. Stop it at once and get yourself some food.
Please, Miss Martin. I'd rather get on with this. I wish you wouldn't bother.
Very well, I don't want to fuss. But please be sensible.
I will. I promise the moment I finish, I'll grab a bite to eat and go to bed.
So what do you think of your horse's chances?
Not much, I'm afraid. That was the girl on Magdalen Tower.
Oh, Lord. Did she see you?
No. The moment I caught a glimpse of her, I ducked behind the shelves.
Thank goodness. That would really have put the wind up her.
The following evening I went to see a friend in Somerville, and it was nearly midnight by the time I got back to Shrewsbury. There were lights in the warden's lodging, and someone was standing by the gate, looking out.
Is that you, Miss Vane? Oh, the warden wants to see you.
What's happened?
Miss Newland hasn't come in.
It's only just 12.
She's not the kind to go out without leave. And they found things in her room.
What things?
Letters.
All more or less on the same theme. Do you feel your brains going? What will you do when you fail schools? In your place, I'd shut myself out of the window or drown myself in the river.
It's an attempt at murder, but has it come off?
One of the boathouse keys is missing.
When was she last seen?
After that little episode in the library, I thought something ought to be done about her. So I took her out on the river this afternoon. Well, she seemed all right then. We came back and I persuaded her to dine in hall, and then she said she was going to work in the library, but she must have slipped out somehow or other.
But hasn't anybody done anything?
Well, the bursar and Miss Hilliard have gone upstream in the Waterfly, and Miss Barton and Miss Edwards have taken the other sculler down to the Isis. The police have been alerted.
Did Miss Newland say anything to you, Miss Martin, while you were out on the river that could suggest where she might go if she was planning to kill herself?
Yes. There was something. We were well up through the parks, and I struck a bad bit of water and nearly lost the pole. I remember saying it would be a very nasty place to go in because of the weeds. She asked if that was where a man had been drowned last year.
When was she last seen?
At 9:30.
It would take her a good half hour to get to the boathouse, and then at least 40 minutes to punt to the...
She's not a good punter. She'd probably take a canoe, but we can't be certain that's where she...
It's worth taking the chance. Did Miss Newland say anything to you, Miss Martin, while you were out on the river that could suggest where she might go if she was planning to kill herself?
Yes. There was something. We were well up through the parks, and I struck a bad bit of water and nearly lost the pole. I remember saying it would be a very nasty place to go in because of the weeds. She asked if that was where a man had been drowned last year.
Coffee and brandy. And we'd better get the police to send a constable to rendezvous with us at Tim's boathouse.
I will see to that. I shall be thankful for something to do.
Our boat crept slowly downstream. The constable, crouched in the bows, swept the beam of a powerful torch from bank to bank.
Hold on a minute. There's something here. No, nothing but a bit of sacking.
Ready then? Paddle. Is that the bursar's boat coming up towards us?
Yes, it is.
There she is. She's thrown herself in. Paddle like blazes.
Take care, ladies. Don't run her down.
Easy, back a bit.
Over by the willows there. Fetch the boat round a bit more.
A white patch glimmered up to the surface and sank again. The constable leaned out, groping with both hands among the river weeds.
Have you got her?
Yeah, just about. The weeds are cruel strong.
Mind you don't go over as well.
The girl's head was out of the water, dead white with dark strips of weed.
Right, make for the bank at once.
And is the wretched child out of danger?
Oh, yes. She'd only been in the water a few minutes.
Has she said anything?
She says why couldn't we leave her alone? I told her not to be an inconsiderate little ass.
But you must see, Warden, that this changes everything. We've got to call in expert help and risk the consequences. Any scandal is better than a suicide and an inquest.
You're right, of course.
The girl's parents are not likely to keep quiet about it. If she'd succeeded in drowning herself, we'd have been surrounded by police and reporters by now.
The next time we may not be so...
The next time you surely don't think...
There will be a next time. And then it may not be suicide, but open murder. I cannot take any further share of the responsibility. I have tried, and I have failed every time.
And do you have a particular detective agency in mind?
Yes, I do. But if anyone has anything better to suggest...
We have wasted too much time already. Will you get into communication with these people straight away?
I will telephone the head of the firm this morning.
But you will use all possible discretion, will you not, Miss Vane?
The agency I had in mind was ostensibly a typing bureau, financed by Peter Wimsey, who employed it for some of his more discreet investigations. It was run by a woman who had played a vital part in the case of the murder of which I had stood accused, Kathleen Climpson.
I'm afraid that Miss Climpson is absent from town, engaged on a case. Would you care to speak to anyone else?
But Miss Climpson was the only member of the firm personally known to me, and I did not like to pour all the horrible details of the affair into the ears of a total stranger.
Ah, Miss Vane. I was looking for you.
Is something the matter, Mr. Vane?
See for yourself.
Your turn's coming. Nice to be warned, I suppose.
It fell out of one of my books just now.
When did you use the book last?
Well, that's the curious thing. Miss Hilliard borrowed it last night, and it was returned to me this morning by one of her students.
Did you give the book directly into Miss Hilliard's hands?
No, I put it into a pigeonhole before hall.
So anybody might have got hold of it.
I suppose they could, yes.
Could Mr. Vine have planted the letter herself? I simply had no idea where to turn for help. I'd said that I would go to the head of the firm, but the real head, the brains behind it, was Peter himself. Should I at least ask for his advice? I'd quite deliberately turned my mind away from him during the past months, sinking myself deeper and deeper into Oxford. He had, of course, sent me some weeks ago his inevitable All Fool's Day letter.
Dear Harriet, I send in my demand notes with the brutal regularity of the income tax commissioners. And probably you say, when you see the envelopes, "Oh, God, I know what this is."
He was quite right, of course.
Will you marry me? It's beginning to look like one of those lines in a farce, merely boring till it's said often enough, and after that it gets a bigger laugh each time it comes. I should like to write you the kind of words that burn the paper they are written on. But words like that have a way of being not only unforgettable, but unforgivable. You will burn this in any case, and I would rather there should be nothing in it you cannot forget if you want to. Well, that's over. Don't worry about it.
I had never known him to sound so bleakly unhappy.
My nephew, whom you have so kindly befriended, is sharing my Italian exile by dark hints that you are involved in some disagreeable and dangerous job of work in Oxford, about which he is in honour bound to say nothing.
He was hurt, of course, that I had confided in his nephew, whom I scarce knew, and told him nothing.
I hope he's mistaken. But I know that if you have put anything in hand, disagreeableness and danger will not turn you back, and God forbid that they should.
Not one man in 10,000 would have said that. It was an admission of equality I would never have expected of him. For a moment it occurred to me that if he conceived of marriage along those lines, then the whole question would have to be reviewed in that new light. But I'd turned down his proposal, thanking him for not telling me to run away and play. But now, rather perversely, I found myself resenting the fact that Peter was not around when I needed him. I put through a telephone call to his hotel in Rome. It took the best part of half a day to get a reply.
I am sorry, Signorina, but his lordship is not in the hotel.
Do you know when he will be back?
Oh, he will not be back, Signorina. He left for Warsaw 3 days ago.
How very unfortunate, particularly in view of the latest development.
What development?
The warden had a visit from Dr. Threep this afternoon. He's a member of our ruling council. He's been having lunch with the Vice-Chancellor, and the Vice-Chancellor has received an anonymous letter making accusations against the Senior Common Room.
What kind of accusations?
He declined to go into details, but murder certainly figured among them. He dismissed it as the work of a harmless crank, of course, but if this goes on, it could make life rather awkward for us.
In the back of my address book, I came across the name of Freddie Arbuthnot, an old friend of Peter's, who would know how to contact him if anybody could. I wrote to him, enclosing a letter to Peter, asking him to forward it urgently to wherever Peter might be. The following day was a Saturday, heavy with distant thunder. I had a headache and felt out of sorts. I wandered round Oxford with no particular purpose in mind, looking at the shops and trying not to think very much. In the window of an antique shop, there was a set of ivory Chinese chessmen. Each piece was a complicated set of little revolving balls, delicate as fine lace. They were enchanting, and I wanted to go boldly in and buy them. But I put the temptation aside and moved on. That night the storm broke with a clap that shook the walls of my room. I flung my window open. There was a sweet smell of approaching rain.
It's cleared the air anyway.
And taken my headache with it, thank goodness. I'd like to do something calm and lovely and thoroughly Oxonian.
I'll tell you what we'll do. We'll toddle along like two good little people and listen to the university sermon. I can't think of anything more soothingly academic than that.
After the service, we walked out into the bright morning. Standing at the corner of Cat Street was a group of dons chattering animatedly, two fellows of All Souls and a distinguished figure I recognized as the Master of Balliol. Beside him was a figure in an M.A. gown, who, as the Dean and I passed by, turned and lifted his mortarboard.
Lovely morning, ain't it?
I found myself presenting Peter to the Dean in a sort of daze. How had he got here? And why hadn't he let me know?
If you happen to be free and in your college during the next half hour or so, may I come round and look you up?
That would be delightful.
Then I'll be round in 20 minutes.
Well, so that's the man.
Yes, that's him.
My dear, he's perfectly charming. You never said he was coming to Oxford.
I didn't know. I thought he was in Warsaw. I wrote to him giving an outline of what was going on at Shrewsbury. I don't know what the warden will think. I didn't expect him just to turn up like this.
I shouldn't say too much about it. Simply bring him along to High Table when he's free and let him turn the whole lot of us inside out. A man with manners like that could twist the whole SCR round his little finger. What a mercy he's an historian. That will put him on the right side of Miss Hilliard.
I never thought of him as an historian.
Well, he took her first. I'm told he was looked upon as one of the ablest scholars of his year, didn't you know?
No. I don't think I ever consciously connected him with Oxford. He's full of surprises.
Yes, I did get your letter. I didn't know whether you wished me to appear personally, but I was coming to Oxford anyway. I wanted to drop round and see you yesterday evening, but I got tied up with people.
What have you been doing with yourself?
Talking for all these interminable weeks. I'm a professional funny man at the Foreign Office.
What?
If some foreign dignitary feels offended or not sufficiently regarded, I take him out to lunch and tell him funny stories to put him in a good humour again. God, what a game.
You look as if you haven't slept for weeks.
I'm not so sure that I have, now you come to mention it. We all thought at one point that the balloon was going up. I got as far as saying to Bunter one night, "It's coming. Back to the army again, Sergeant." But in the end, you know, it made a noise like a hoop and rolled away.
For the time being.
It's a relief to get back and find you here, and Oxford going on as it used to. If only one could root oneself in here among the grass and stones and do something worthwhile.
But, Peter, you're saying exactly what I've been feeling all this time. Can it be done?
No, it can't be done. There are moments when one comes back and thinks it might. I haven't yet properly thanked you for being so kind to St. George.
Have you seen him yet?
No. I threaten to descend on him tomorrow and show him a damn disinheriting countenance. He's gone off today with a party of friends. I know what that means. He's getting thoroughly spoilt.
Well, you can't wonder he's terribly good-looking.
He's a precocious little monkey. Now, I can't blame him for that. It runs in the blood. But it's characteristic of his impudence that he should have gate-crashed your acquaintance after you have always firmly refused to meet any of my people.
I found him for myself, you see.
Well, since you've met one member of the family, why don't you come down to Denver and see the place before the new civilization grows on it like the jungle? They'll tell you I don't care a damn for the whole outfits, and I don't know that I do. But I was born there, and I shall be sorry if I live to see the land sold off for ribbon building and the hall turned over to some Hollywood colour-talky king.
I've never heard you talk like this before. I didn't realise you cared.
Oh, it's very easy for me to care, because I'm not called upon to do a hand's turn in the matter. I don't envy St. George when he inherits it all. Only I do have a certain hankering after certain musty old values.
I understand. And I'd like to see your home.
Would you? Then we'll go one of these days.
But...
No, don't worry. I won't inflict the family on you, so I think you'd rather like my mother. We'll choose a time when they're all away, except a dozen or so harmless dukes in the family vault. Oh, great Scott, look at the time. Oh, dear, look, you let me maunder on and we haven't said a word about your Shrewsbury problem.
I've been only too thankful to forget it for a bit.
As I dare say you have. Listen, Harriet, couldn't we make today a holiday? I've got this lunch with the master at Balliol, but why don't we meet at 3 o'clock and take a punt from Magdalen Bridge?
If this were 20 years ago, I should say you were going on the river.
I am, hand in hand with a statelier past.
I'm afraid you're making yourself conspicuous. No sunbathing costume, no coloured beach sandals. You are clothed, clean and cool on a Sunday afternoon too. I hope at least the parcel under your arm contains records of crooners.
It was, in fact, my poison pen poltergeist diary which I wanted Peter to take away and study. He was waiting for me. immaculately dressed in the manner of an Oxford engraving, and handed me ceremoniously into the punt.
Is it your pleasure to go up or down?
I felt the need of shade and solitude and chose to go downstream, but an ugly shock awaited us.
Good God!
What's the matter?
I've struck something terrible. Can't you smell it? It is scandalous the way corpses follow me about.
My dear idiot, it's only the corporation garbage dump.
A garbage dump? Oh, dear, it is simply criminal. Let's get away from here. There's no romance left on this river.
The Isis was thick with overcrowded punts and whining gramophones. We put in under the shade of an overhanging willow, but even there we were not left in peace.
Why, look there! If it isn't Lord Peter Wimsey!
A contingent of American ladies, whose leader claimed to know Peter, came paddling across to look at us. Peter behaved with his customary urbanity, while I heartily wished them all at the bottom of the river. After what seemed like an eternity, they paddled off again.
Well, girls, didn't I tell you he was the perfect English aristocrat?
I think I'd better give up being the perfect English aristocrat and become the great detective again. Perhaps I should have a glance through your dossier after all. I'm curious to see what kind of a sleuth you make when left to yourself.
He curled up among the cushions while I studied his half-averted face. The glitter of close-cropped hair where the neck muscles lifted to meet the head. An almost imperceptible beading of sweat on the upper lip.
What is it? Is something the matter?
No, nothing at all. So it has happened. But it happened long ago. The only thing is that now I have to admit it to myself. I've known it for some time. But does he know it?
Well, Harriet, it's not a pretty problem.
And it simply can't go on. Tell me what to do, Peter.
Well, there are two possibilities. You can plant spies all over the place and wait to pounce when the next incident occurs.
But you don't know how difficult a place it is to police. And suppose we don't catch her and something horrible happens.
I agree. The other, and I think the better way, is to do what we can to frighten this lunatic into keeping quiet while we dig out the motive behind the whole thing. I'm sure it's not mere blind malignity. There's method to it.
Isn't it all too painfully obvious? Pent-up, frustrated sexual energy.
No, Harriet, it's not. You're not thinking clearly. Isn't it a fact that having more or less made up your own mind to a spot of celibacy, you are eagerly peopling the cloisters with bogies?
We're not talking about me and my feelings. We're talking about all these beastly goings-on in college.
But you can't keep your feelings out of the case. It's no use saying that sex is at the bottom of all these phenomena. Sex ain't a separate thing functioning away all by itself. It's usually found attached to a person of some sort.
I would have thought that was self-evident.
I simply wish you could clear this personal preoccupation from your mind. My dear, what are you afraid of? You're in no danger. If you want to set up your everlasting rest, you are more likely to find it in the life of the mind than in the life of the heart.
You say that?
I say that. It's your needs we are considering, not anybody else's.
Peter, I seem to be behaving very stupidly. But the reason why I want to get clear of people and feelings and go back to the intellectual side is that it is the only side of life I haven't betrayed and made a mess of.
Yes, I understand that. And it's upsetting to think it may betray you in its turn. But why should you think that? Even if much learning makes one person mad, it need not make everybody mad. All these women are beginning to look abnormal to you because you don't know which one to suspect. But actually, even you don't suspect more than one.
No, but I'm beginning to think that almost any of them might be capable of it.
Will you give me tomorrow to think it over? I fancy I see one or two lines that might be followed up with profit.
I would rather trust you than anybody.
Thank you, Harriet. Shall we now resume our interrupted holiday? And here are the ducks coming up for the remains of our sandwiches. Oh, my lost youth. 23 years ago, I fed these identical ducks with these identical sandwiches. How fleeting are all human passions compared with the massive continuity of ducks. Be off, colliers. That's the lot.
What is it? What's the matter?
It's Carrie, madam.
Oh, well, come in for goodness sake.
We're sorry to wake you, madam, but the Dean said to come and tell you. Annie and me have been so frightened. We nearly caught it.
Caught it?
The ghost, or whatever you call it, in the science lecture room, madam.
And it's gone off rampaging something horrible. It may be murdering people this very minute.
Oh, don't be ridiculous, Carrie. Where is the Dean?
Waiting by the door of the science lecture room. She said to fetch you.
All right, let's be off, and you can tell me all about it on the way.
I was in bed fast asleep and Annie wakes me up and says that...
Just a minute. Let Annie tell her part herself.
I woke up at about 1:30 and happened to look out of my window, and I saw a light on in the science lecture room and a shadow on the curtain like somebody moving about.
But when we got there, the door was locked.
But it's got a glass panel, and I looked through and I saw something all in black, crouched over a table.
And I tried to see it too, but I must have jogged Annie's elbow against the door because it rattled and the light went out.
So I told Carrie to go and fetch the Dean while I kept a lookout.
Oh, but here she is. She can tell me the rest herself.
I'm sorry to have dragged you out. Our friend's got away, I'm afraid. The darkroom window's open. She must have climbed through. So what do we do now, Mr. Holmes?
I didn't want to go in through the darkroom window for fear of disturbing any evidence, so I smashed the panel of the door, wrapped a scarf round my hand and turned the key. I knocked the light switch on with my torch.
There's a newspaper and a paste pot on the table.
And a box of cut-out letters.
This must be where she does it.
It seems unnecessarily public. Why can't she do it in her own room? Did you get a look at her face when you peeped in, Annie?
No, madam, not to recognise. She was wearing some black thing and was sitting with her back to the door.
I think you and Carrie may as well go back to bed. The Dean and I will see to the rest.
Yes, madam. Good night, madam.
Good night, madam.
Good night.
Good night.
So, what do we do now?
I'll lock the door and remove the key. I'd rather like a second opinion.
Your exquisite gentleman?
I think we'd better have him round here as soon as decency permits.
We haven't been able to come up with much in the fingerprint line, I'm afraid, and Bunter has been all over the floor on his hands and knees. It's shockingly bad for one's trousers. And he came up with these long black hairpins.
No, they're not mine. I use bronze ones. So does Miss Lydgate, I think.
I know who uses black ones like this. I once had the pleasure of sticking them in for her.
Mr. Vine! Of course! So like the White Queen, dropping pins all over the place. But why should she come in here? She never consults scientific texts.
She was still working in her room when I came across here last night.
Did you see her?
No, I only meant that her reading lamp was on.
Which doesn't exactly establish an alibi. By the way, did you notice that the letter on the table was addressed to you? Take a look.
You needn't think you'll get me. You make me laugh, you...
At which point, presumably, she was disturbed. The epithet can be supplied from the remaining letters in the box, but they're mostly Q's and K's and Z's, and such like unhandy consonants.
I'm going to have to leave you, I'm afraid. I've got too many pesky problems waiting in my room. 3 late without leaves and 2 gramophones out of doors. Now, Lord Peter, it is agreed that we shall have the honour of seeing you with us at high table this evening.
The honour is mine.
And I trust you will join us afterwards for coffee in the senior common room.
I'm looking forward to it.
Goodbye, then.
Goodbye.
Have we finished here, do you think?
Oh, yes. We're not going to discover anything else. We have found here only what we were intended to find.
Would you care for a tour of the college, to take in the more important battlefields?
I should particularly like to see the hall and library, and the connection between them. Miss Barton's room, the layout of the chapel, and the way from the Queen Elizabeth's building to the new quad.
Oh, good heavens! Did you sit up all night with the dossier?
No, I woke rather early. But don't tell Bunter, he'll become too solicitous.
And have you come to any particular conclusion?
There are a few points whose significance you may have overlooked. 1. You and Mr. Vine meet at Shrewsbury for the first time at the Gaudy, and the first letter is put into your gown that evening. 2. The people attacked are nearly all dons and scholars. 3. All the letters received by post come either on a Monday or a Thursday. And 4, the dress found on the dummy was never seen in college. Do all these facts taken together suggest nothing to you?
They suggest a lot of things separately, but I can't make anything of them taken together.
Well, mull them over in your mind. Shall we go?
And so we made our tour, doing our best, not very successfully, to try not to draw too much attention to ourselves. I could make out very little of what was passing in Peter's mind. He seemed somewhat abstracted from the matter in hand.
I fancy that you may have little more trouble at night.
Why do you say that?
Well, for one thing, the nights are getting rather short, and the risks are rather great. All the same, I think you should take some personal precautions.
Are you serious?
For once, I am. I dare say I'm flattering myself, but I fear my presence may not pass unnoticed, and our friend may grow rather alarmed. And I don't like her preoccupation with knives and strangling.
Very well, I'll be careful.
I won't offer you a revolver to take to bed with you, but I have an idea that from now on you and at least one other person may be in danger of attack.
Aren't you rather exaggerating the whole thing? You don't usually get the wind up like this.
I do, though, quite often. But if it's only my risk, I can afford to let it blow. When it comes to other people...
Your instinct is to clap the women and children under hatches.
Well, one can't suppress one's natural instincts altogether.
Peter, it's a shame. Let me introduce you to some nice little woman who adores being protected.
I should be wasted on her. Besides, she would always be deceiving me in the kindest manner for my own good, and that I could not stand. I object to being tactfully managed by somebody who ought to be my equal.
I'll bear it in mind.
Well, I'd better push off now. I'll be round to face the high table at 7 o'clock. I must admit I'm rather looking forward to it.
I'm sure you will find it a stimulating experience.
Rather more than that, I hope. I'll be round to face the high table at 7 o'clock. I must admit I'm rather looking forward to it.
I'm sure you will find it a stimulating experience.
Rather more than that, I hope. I don't pretend that I shall nail your poltergeist tonight, but I trust that I shall at least discover her motive.
To school concert.
Everyone's arriving early tonight. Miss Devine is pushing in her hairpins.
And even Miss Hilliard is arrayed in her best black gown with a train to it. Punctuality seems to be one of your gentleman's virtues. You'd better meet him and settle his nerves before the ordeal.
Have you cleaned your teeth?
And said your prayers?
Yes, Mamma. And cut my nails and washed behind my ears and got a clean handkerchief.
He seemed as ready for mischief as a wilderness of monkeys, and I was glad to relinquish him to the Dean to make the introductions.
And how is Warsaw? I haven't been there for years.
Miss Lydgate was far too unself-conscious to have any attitude at all. Miss Hilliard looked deeply suspicious, but Peter was more than equal to the task.
I've been looking forward to meeting you. Your paper in the Historical Review on the diplomatic aspects of the divorce was really masterly. And your handling of the
Well, he's certainly made a complete conquest of Miss Hilliard. She looks as if she's been given a birthday present. She's even introducing him to Miss Devine.
Her back hair's coming down again.
A sure sign of pleasure and excitement.
Here comes the warden.
We shall have to separate them. He's got to take the warden into dinner. All's well. She's collared him. The firm assertion of the royal prerogative.
In hall, I was placed between Miss Hilliard and Miss Barton, and since neither had anything particular to say to me, I was able to observe the warden's determination to size up Peter, and his diplomatically veiled determination to size up her.
But probably are not interested in all this question of women's education.
Is it still a question in Oxford? I had hoped I'd return to civilization.
They manoeuvred their way through the question of college endowments, the philosophy of Plato.
I fear that philosophy is a closed book to me, as music is to the tone-deaf.
A very apt analogy. As it happens, I am tone-deaf myself.
Eventually, the warden collected the high table with her eye, rose and made a stately exit. As we moved to assemble for coffee in the senior common room, I realized how queer the whole situation was. I felt that Peter was some dangerous alien, and that I was on the side of the women who were welcoming the Inquisitor among them. I felt exactly like Judas.
Feeling Judas is part of the job. It's no work for a gentleman. Shall we wash our hands like Pilate and be thoroughly respectable?
No, we're in for it now. We'll be degraded together.
Oh, that will be nice.
I slid my hand under his arm and I thought, he and I belong to the same world and all these others are the aliens.
We'd better go in.
What do you want me to do?
Chuck the ball back to me if it runs out of the circle. Just exercise your devastating talent for keeping to the point and speaking the truth.
That sounds easy.
It is for you. That's what I love you for, didn't you know?
Coffee was already on the table and the senior common room gathered about it and then divided into groups. But one by one the spurts of conversation faded and died, leaving Peter's voice floating like a solo instrument.
The execution of the guilty is unpleasant, but not nearly so disturbing as the slaughter of the innocents. To take one example, I happened to find out that a young woman had murdered an old one for her money. Well, it didn't matter much, the old woman was dying in any case. But as soon as I began to meddle, the girl set to cover her tracks, and 2 other innocent people were killed.
You're suggesting that they were sacrificed to a social principle?
To Lord Peter's social principles, at any rate. You can't carry through any principle without doing violence to somebody. What is important is to establish the facts.
Oh, but surely one cannot simply brush aside the question of personal loyalties.
And so the discussion was fairly launched, with feelings running high on both sides.
Of course, if you think that private loyalty should come before loyalty to one's job.
With Peter always contriving to steer the talk back in the direction he wished it to take.
But the question is not always as simple as one might suppose. How about the artist of genius who has to choose between letting his family starve and painting potboilers to keep them?
He's no business to have a wife and family. It would be perfectly immoral for him to turn out bad pictures.
I don't see that a few bad pictures would matter one way or another.
Of course they matter.
If you can't agree about a painter, why not make it a scientist?
There are certainly questions of principle there. Somebody wrote a novel called The Search.
C.P. Snow. It's funny you should mention it. That was the book that was vandalized.
That's probably why it came into my mind.
I've never read the book.
It's about a man who sets out to be a scientist and gets on very well until, just as he's about to be appointed to an important executive post, he discovers he's made a serious error in a scientific paper. Somebody finds out and he doesn't get the job. So he decides he doesn't care for science after all.
Obviously not. He only cared about the post.
But in the same novel, somebody does deliberately falsify a result in order to get a job. But the man who spots it says nothing, because the scientist is badly off and has a wife and family to support.
Well, of course one couldn't do that. Not for 10 wives and 50 children.
I congratulate you, Miss Barton, for striking such a fine, unfeminine note. Will no one say a word for the poor women and children?
But surely we're drifting away from the point. This thing was in a novel. It would never happen like that in real life.
Oh, but it does. It's happened to me. When I was examining for professorial thesis at Flamborough College, there was a man who produced a very interesting paper on an historical subject. It was a very persuasive piece of argument. Only I happened to know that it was quite untrue, because a letter that absolutely contradicted it was in existence in an obscure library in a foreign town. But internal evidence showed that the man must have had access to that letter. I discovered afterwards that he had seen the letter and deliberately suppressed it.
But how could you be so sure he had seen it? He might carelessly have overlooked it.
Well, not only had he seen it, but he had stolen it. He had come upon the letter when his thesis was complete, and he had no time to rewrite it. It was a great blow to him, because he had grown enamoured of his own theory and couldn't bear to give it up.
That is the mark of an unsound scholar, I'm afraid.
What happened to him?
Well, that was the end of him, of course. Naturally, he lost his professorship, and they took away his MA as well.
Oh, dear. The poor man must have wanted the job very badly.
It would have meant a great deal to him financially. He was married, and not well off. I don't know what became of him. He dropped out completely.
You'd think it would be a lesson to him. He'd sacrificed his professional honour for the women and children we hear so much about. But in the end, it left him and them much worse off.
And then a silence fell. There was a palpable nervous tension in the room. Now, they were saying to themselves, now something is going to happen. Something is going to be said about the Shrewsbury poison pen, and it is all going to be very uncomfortable.
It really is the most ghastly outrage. That loathsome smell of decay, that disgusting mound of putrefaction.
What exactly are you talking about, Lord Peter?
The corporation garbage dump. It has destroyed the romance of Oxford.
The following day, Peter came back to Shrewsbury with his nephew, Viscount St. George.
I want to see if he can identify the woman who grabbed him round the throat that night.
But St. George recognised no one, and to Peter's fury and the outrage of Miss Hilliard, enfolded me in a passionate embrace beneath the windows of the senior common room.
Damn that boy!
Oh, Peter, what does it matter? He only wanted to tease you.
Well, it's a pity he can't find some other way to do it. I seem to be a perfect millstone tied around your neck, and sooner I clear out the better.
I snapped back at him, and he went off in a fury on some mysterious mission to York. On the following night, a strange and sinister thing happened. I'd been taken by my Somerville friend to a literary gathering in honour of a celebrated minor poet. I was told I was wanted on the telephone.
Is that Miss Vane?
Yes, who's that speaking?
This is Shrewsbury College. Could you please come round quickly? There's been another disturbance.
Who is that speaking, please?
This is Dr. Baring's maid.
And what has happened?
I don't know, miss. The warden said I was to ask you to come at once.
I said my goodbyes and was hurrying across Garden Quad when I remembered something Peter had once said to me.
The heroines of thrillers deserve all they get. When a mysterious voice rings them up and says it is Scotland Yard, they never think of ringing back to verify the call.
I rushed to the nearest phone box and rang the Shrewsbury Porter's Lodge and asked to be put through to the warden's lodging. The maid I spoke to had no knowledge of any call being made to me, and the warden had gone out to the theatre with the dean. I got back to Paget and told him what had happened.
Very good, miss. I'll get down to the private gate and have a look around. If there's anybody here laying in wait for you, miss, I feel sorry for 'em, that's all.
I set off for Shrewsbury, walking as fast as I could, and by the time I reached the side gate, I was out of my breath as well as my wits. Would my assailant be waiting for me in the bushes of the Fellows' garden? I thought of the bread knife stuck into the dummy in the chapel. And then melodrama degenerated into polite comedy. A car drew up and deposited the dean and the warden.
Ah, it's you, Miss Vane. Now I shan't have to find my key. The dean and I have been indulging in a little dissipation.
We walked across to the warden's lodging, my eyes and ears on the alert for anything stirring in the bushes. After we had said good night, I encountered Paget in New Quad.
She was there right enough, miss. Sitting on the bench behind the laurels near the gate. But when you and Dr. Baring came through talking, she was up and off like a shot.
Who was it, Paget?
Oh, miss, not to put too fine a point on it, it was, Miss Hilliard.
Oh, look here, Paget, I don't want anything said about this.
Oh, no, miss, no. But it's a funny thing about that telephone call. It didn't come through the lodge, miss.
Then it must have been made from outside.
Yes, miss. And Miss Hilliard came in at 10:50, miss. Just before you rang up.
Did she? Are you sure?
Oh, I remember quite well, because of Annie passing a remark about her. There's no love lost between Miss Hilliard and Annie. Faults on both sides, that's what I say, miss, and hasty tempers.
What was Annie doing in the lodge at that hour?
We'll just come in from her half-day out, miss. She sat in the lodge for a bit with Mrs. Paget.
You didn't say anything about this business to her, did you, Paget? As you say, Annie doesn't care for Miss Hilliard, and I suspect she's a bit of a troublemaker.
Yeah, I didn't say a word, miss. Not even to Mrs. Paget. This here remains confidential between you and me, miss.
I wished that Peter hadn't gone off and left me in this ghastly place where people go off their heads and write horrible letters, and I was sorry that we'd parted in a fit of bad temper. I tried to work on my mystery story, but it kept wandering off in the wrong direction. I went for a walk and found myself outside the antique shop again, gazing at the ivory chessmen.
What's the fascination? Toby jugs or pewter pots? Or the dubious chests with Brummagem handles?
The Chinese chessmen.
Ah.
I've fallen a victim to them. I don't know why. I have no possible use for them. They simply bewitch me. When did you get back?
Just before lunch. I was on my way to see you.
And have you found out anything useful?
I have been scouring England for a man called Arthur Robinson.
And who is he?
He's the unfortunate gentleman with the thesis who came up against the formidable memory of Mr. Vine and who lost his job. I persuaded her to let me have his name. So far, I've found out precious little, but Miss Climperson's agency are working flat out on it. Have there been any new developments at college?
Well, yes. Something rather queer happened the other night, only I don't quite understand it.
Why don't we go for a spin in the car, and you can tell me all about it?
Am I making a mountain out of a molehill, Peter?
I think not. It's possible that our friend has realized you are a danger and is minded to tackle you first. Unless, of course, it is a quite separate feud, which is just possible. But I don't think you want to take any chances. Look, I know what you need. A dog collar. The kind with brass knobs. We've just passed a leather and harness shop.
Do you really want me to wear this? Is it supposed to be a badge of ownership?
God forbid. It's to guard you against the bites of sharks. Excellent also against stranglers and throat slitters.
I can't go about in this.
Well, not in the daytime. But it will be very handy when patrolling the college at night. Try it on. Yes. Well, it's rather becoming, don't you think? I don't see why it shouldn't set a new fashion.
I do. Do you mind taking it off now?
But you promise you'll wear it?
I promise, but please take it off now.
There. Do you realize this is the only thing you ever let me give you?
Except my life. Except my life.
Damn. It must have been a pretty bitter gift if you can't let either of us forget it.
I'm sorry, Peter. That was ungenerous and beastly of me. You shall give me something if you want to.
May I? What shall I give you? A roc's egg? The green eye of the little yellow god?
Give me the ivory chessmen.
My dear, of course. Would you like them now?
This instant. Some miserable undergraduate may be snapping them up.
All right. I'll engage not to drop below 70, except in the 30-mile limit.
Well, there they are. Admit that when I do a thing, I do it handsomely. I've asked you for 32 presents at once.
It sounds like through the looking glass. Are you coming in, or will you leave me to fight it out by myself?
Of course I'm coming in. Why? Am I looking too keen?
Much too keen.
Well, I don't care I'm coming in. But I shall leave all the bargaining to you and keep my eyes modestly down.
I'm sorry that took so long. You've chosen better than you knew. I'm no expert, but I'm very much mistaken if that ain't a fine and ancient set and worth a good deal more than he was asking for it. That's why I haggled so much. When a thing looks like a bargain, there's usually a snag about it somewhere. If one of those dashed pawns wasn't the original, it would make the whole set worthless.
If the set hadn't been perfect, should you have bought it?
Not at any price.
Not if I still wanted it.
No, that's the snag about me. Besides, you wouldn't want it. You have the scholarly mind, and you'd always feel uncomfortable knowing it was imperfect, even if nobody else knew.
That's true. Well, I'm glad they're all right, because I love them with a perfectly idiotic passion. They've been haunting my slumbers for weeks. And even now I haven't said thank you.
Oh, yes, you have. And anyway, the pleasure is all mine.
But where are you going to keep them? You can't just leave them in their box. Look at all these little fragile spears and the royal headdresses.
They were mine. I shouldn't be able to keep my eyes off them for a moment.
I've just remembered. We can get one of the glass cases from the science lecture room. You can keep them in there.
Thank you. That would be lovely.
I've always considered chess the most wearisome amusement in the world.
Oh, nonsense. Shall we have a game, Miss Vane?
But I expect you could play my head off.
I'll give you a pawn advantage.
Even so, I suffered 3 humiliating defeats in quick succession. Nor were the games made any easier by being played under the derisive eyes of Miss Hilliard, who distressed me by fingering the captured pieces, and who, when the glass case had duly been taken up to my room, insisted on carrying some of them and installed the case opposite my bed.
Now you'll be able to see them if you wake up in the night.
The following day happened to be the Dean's birthday, and on my way back from the market to buy her roses, I ran into Peter coming out of the Mitre Inn.
Just the thing, I must say. I rather like your Dean.
Have you heard anything more about Arthur Robinson?
Only that he married his landlady's daughter, a young woman called Charlotte Ann Clark, and had a daughter, Beatrice Maud. I'm hoping to hear more this afternoon, but I have a pretty shrewd idea whom I'm after.
Lord Peter Wimsey has been to see me with a rather curious proposition. He told me that he was almost certain in his mind as to the identity of the offender, but he was not in a position at that moment to offer a complete proof. He asked me whether I would allow him to interrogate this person privately, in the hope of surprising her into some admission. If the bluff, as he called it, came off, she could then make her confession to me. I need hardly say that I could not possibly consent to such methods being used upon anybody in college.
Yes, I can understand that.
I said that we should at least wait for additional evidence, but he made it very plain that the culprit might throw caution to the winds and make a direct assault either on Mr. Vine or yourself. That is why I asked you to come here.
I don't in the least mind what risks I take, but Mr. Vine ought to be warned, I think.
That is what I said, and Lord Peter approved.
Have you said anything to her?
Mr. Vine is in town and will not return until tomorrow evening. I propose to tell her then.
So there was nothing to do but wait. That evening, I worked with Miss Lydgate on her interminable proofs. And as I was going upstairs to my room, I encountered Miss Hilliard.
Oh, Miss Vane.
Were you looking for me?
No, I wasn't. Certainly not. Going to work under the inspiration of your beautiful chessmen?
More or less.
I hope you have a pleasant time with them.
I went on up the stairs and opened the door of my room. The glass case had been shattered, and the floor was strewn with smashed and trampled fragments of red and white ivory.
Blind, bestial malignity. Not only broken, but ground to powder. There's been a heel here at work as well as a poker. She hates you, Harriet. I thought she was only afraid of you. Oh, my dear girl, now come along, don't cry about it. It might have been you.
I loved them, and you gave them to me.
It's a pity it's that way round. You gave them to me and I've loved them is all right, but I loved them and you gave them to me is irreparable. But you needn't weep over the chest of drawers while I have a shoulder at your disposal.
I'm sorry, I'm being a complete idiot.
I told you love was the devil and all. Did you notice anything unusual this evening?
Oh, I noticed something all right, and she said something about the chessmen too.
Who was that?
Miss Hilliard.
Excuse me, madam, but Paget sent me over to see if Lord Peter Wimsey...
He's here, Annie.
Oh. If you please, sir, they've rung up from the Mitre to say that there's a message from the Foreign Office.
Oh, Lord, that would happen. Oh, dear, oh, dear. Oh, thank you, Annie, thank you. Was it you who saw the person who was playing tricks in the lecture room?
Yes, sir. Though not to know again, sir.
No, but she may not know you couldn't recognize her. If I were you, I'd be rather careful how you go about the college after dark.
Yes, sir. Thank you, sir.
You'd better be getting back to see what the trouble is. I'll walk with you as far as the quad.
Look, my dear, this is all very tiresome. I just hope it ain't another summons to Rome. And I don't choose the moment my back is turned to get wiped out. And don't forget the dog collar. Good night.
Good night.
Miss Vane, I should like to speak to you.
Certainly, Miss Hilliard.
And I should rather like to speak to you. Shall we go to my room?
Anywhere you wish.
Miss Vane, what are the relations between that man and you?
What do you mean by that?
You know perfectly well what I mean. If nobody else will speak to you about your behaviour, then I must. You bring this man here knowing perfectly well what his reputation is.
I know what his reputation as a detective is.
I mean his moral reputation. You know as well as I do that he is notorious all over Europe. He keeps women by the score.
All at once or in succession?
It's no good being impertinent. The way you look at him is a disgrace. You take him up to your room.
Really, Miss Hilliard, I can't allow you...
He was there tonight.
You know very well why he was there.
I can guess.
And I know very well why you came there.
I never went into your room.
You didn't go into my room and smash my chessmen?
I haven't been anywhere near your room tonight.
That is a lie.
And I know it is a lie because there's a fragment of broken ivory on the carpet under your writing table and another stuck on the heel of your right shoe. I saw it following you up the stairs.
Oh, my God.
Give me your shoe.
Here.
That's evidence. Incontrovertible.
I did go to your room to say to you what I've said just now, but you weren't there. And when I saw the mess on the floor, I was afraid you'd think...
I did think.
What did he think?
I don't know what he thought, but he'll probably think something now.
You've no evidence that I did it. But I did see it. And you can tell your lover that I saw it and was glad to see it. But he'll tell you that's no proof that I did it.
Look, Miss Hilliard, you must understand once and for all that he is not my lover. And if you were watching us down there in the quad, you must know that people who are lovers don't treat each other like that. At least if you know anything about it at all. We're very old friends.
Oh, don't talk nonsense. You know you're in love with the man.
By God, if I'm not, I know who is.
Oh, you've no right to say that.
It's true all the same. I should have realized. I'm sorry.
Oh, for God's sake, go away.
I had no intention of sleeping in my room that night, and the bursar found a bed for me in the infirmary. I kept away from college all next day, taking Miss Lydgate off for a picnic at Hinksey. When we got back, there was a message at the lodge asking me to telephone Viscount St. George urgently.
Look here, I can't get hold of Uncle Peter. He's vanished again. But I saw your ghost this afternoon, and I think you ought to be careful.
Where did you see her?
About 2:30, walking over Magdalen Bridge. She was talking to herself and looking awfully queer. Sort of clutching with her hands and rolling her eyes about. Couldn't mistake her. That woman's dangerous.
After hall that night, I went up to my room, locked the door and took out the dog collar and put it on. When I glanced at myself in the mirror, it looked as if I'd been guillotined. 10:15, the time Mr. Vine's train was due to arrive from London. But had the warden remembered to warn her? I went downstairs and crossed the quad. There was no light in her room, but the curtains were drawn across. I opened the door and felt for the light switch. But it did not come on. 10:15, the time Mr. Vine's train was due to arrive from London. But had the warden remembered to warn her? I went downstairs and crossed the quad. There was no light in her room, but the curtains were drawn across. I opened the door.
Filthy bitch! I'm going to kill you as you killed him!
Sit up.
Oh, I've got the beast of a headache.
The rest of you's in one piece, thank goodness.
What happened?
That's what we'd all like to know. Oh, poor Mr. Vine's train was a bit late, and when she got here, Paget told her the warden wanted to see her. So she went along to her room to take her hat off, and of course the light wouldn't go on. But she could hear you snorting on the floor in the dark.
Oh.
She managed to find the table lamp, and there you are. A nasty, bloggy sight for a respectable woman to find in her sitting room. So she rushed out calling for help and ran about all over the place until somebody fetched the warden. And then her groggy heart went back on her and she went all blue on us. We had a lovely time. But she's right as rain now.
Quite a gaudy night. I'm sorry I missed it.
And then, just as we were settling down, all the fuss started again about Annie.
Annie? What happened to her?
We found her in the coal hole in such a state. What with coal dust and hammering with her fists on the door, I wonder she wasn't clean off her head, poor thing. And if it hadn't been for Lord Peter, we mightn't even have begun to look for her before next morning.
Yes, he warned her she might be attacked. But how did he... Did you get him on the phone, or what?
Yes, eventually. It took us some time to get hold of his phone number, and it was midnight before I managed to speak to him. He said he'd drive down from London at once, and then he asked if anything had happened to Annie Wilson, which set us off trying to find where she'd got to. It was 2:00 in the morning before Lord Peter arrived.
He must have thought I was an awful idiot to let myself be knocked out like that.
He looked like death, and of course he'd been driving like mad. He came in to see you, but you were still rather under the weather. And he explained about the dog collar, which had rather puzzled us.
I suppose she really meant to get Mr. Vine. But you still haven't told me about Annie. How did she get into the coal cellar?
Apparently she was putting the deck chairs away in the loggia when somebody seized her round the neck from behind, frog marched her into the cellar, locked her in and took away the key. She said it was a woman, and very strong.
She certainly was. She had a grip like steel. Is Peter still here?
No, he had to go. Something about an early plane from Croydon. He went off leaving orders that neither you nor Mr. Vine nor Annie was to be left alone for a single moment. And he's rung up once from London and 3 times from Paris.
Poor old Peter. He never seems to get a moment's rest.
He hopes to be back on Thursday and is going to call us all together. Oh, he left you a letter.
Congratulations on not being dead yet. I've taken away your collar to have my name put on it.
If things carry on like this, we shall have to make them standard issue.
Thursday. A heavy, gloomy and depressing Thursday. The warden had called a meeting of the senior common room, and Peter was to lay certain information before them.
The first point to strike an outsider is the fact that these demonstrations began at the Gaudy. I may say that this was a crucial error on the part of the perpetrator, whom I shall refer to in the time-honoured way as X.
You mean that if X had waited until after term began, we would have had a much wider field of suspects?
Exactly. What was it that so excited X at the Gaudy that she couldn't wait until a more advantageous time? Was there a person who was newly arrived at college when the Gaudy took place, and who was resident the following term when the demonstrations began in earnest? And there was. Mr. Vine. The first indications of the trouble were the documents which came into the hands of Miss Vane at the time of the Gaudy. One of them, which amounted to an accusation of murder, was slipped into her gown in the senior common room, and her gown was side by side with that of Mr. Vine. I believe that X misread in H.D. Vane for D. Vine, simply put the note into the wrong gown.
I was certain, of course, that the letter was intended for me. Why should anyone accuse Mr. Vine of murder?
Precisely. Miss Vane also discovered a drawing on the night of the Gaudy. She destroyed it, but I gather it looked something like this.
Oh.
It represents a punishment being inflicted by a naked female figure upon another clothed in academic dress. And similar drawings appeared thrust under doors or scrawled upon walls throughout the Michaelmas term. And there was a curious variation, a crude picture of a man being killed by a female, also in academic dress.
I must admit that the significance of the academic dress escaped me. I thought the drawings were simply obscene.
And that interpretation managed to obscure the real issue. In the disfigurement of your manuscript, Miss Lydgate, did you notice any common factor in the sections which were almost totally obliterated?
Yes. They concerned my criticism of the conclusions of other scholars. And now I come to think of it, they were all male.
But when we come to the attack on the new library, the object of the campaign begins to show itself more clearly. The grievance felt by X, which started with one person, has extended itself to the whole college with the intention of causing a scandal which would bring the entire body into disrepute. And I must say that the one thing which frustrated the whole attack was the remarkable solidarity displayed by your college as a body. I think that was the last obstacle X reckoned to encounter in a community of women.
Thank you. I feel sure that everybody here will know how to appreciate that.
Well, it was about this time that Miss Vane made the acquaintance of my nephew, St. George, and he mentioned to her that, under circumstances into which we need not perhaps inquire, he had met a mysterious woman one night in your fellow's garden, and that she had told him that Shrewsbury College was a place where they mutilated beautiful boys like him and ate their hearts out. And secondly, that the other one had fair hair too. And so we have a little detail about the person who is supposed to have been murdered, in inverted commas. He is fair and reasonably handsome. Then followed the affair of the fuses, and, more importantly, the letters to Miss Newland.
I cannot imagine why they are making all that noise beneath this building. I wonder, Dean, would you be so good as to
Look,
go...
I'm afraid I am responsible for that. I suggested to Paget that a search of the coal cellar might be profitable.
Well, in that case, I fear we must put up with it.
Now, I gathered from Miss Vane that she and others among you were inclined to look upon the outrages as the outcome of the repression that sometimes accompanies the celibate life.
Rather like the obscene carvings one sometimes finds in ancient monasteries.
But the direction of X's campaign seemed to me to revolve round the supposed murder of a male person by a female academic. The picture of X, suggested by all this, was someone with a fiercely anti-academic bias, which seemed to rule out all of yourselves. And then I began to consider the practicalities. It was plain that X had to be someone who resided within the college. But there was the curious circumstance of the letters which came by post.
You mean that they only came on Mondays and Thursdays?
Which suggests that whoever posted them could only go outside on Sundays and Wednesdays.
Exactly, Mr. Vine. And X also needed to have a place somewhere outside college where the clothes she used for prowling about the corridors at night and the dress found on the dummy in the chapel could be kept and the letters prepared.
The letter factory and the science laboratory was obviously an attempt to divert our suspicions.
Indeed it was. So the person who seemed best to fulfill these conditions appeared to be one of the scouts.
But that's out of the question, surely.
The majority of them, however, seemed to be ruled out. Most of those in the scouts' wing slept two to a room, but there were two who had separate rooms. Carrie, the head scout, and Annie Wilson. And Annie corresponded most closely to the psychological picture of X.
Oh, no, I can't believe it. She'd been married, she had Sunday and Wednesday afternoons off, and she had a place outside college where her children lived.
Oh, this is preposterous.
There was one consideration which led Miss Vane to eliminate all the scouts.
The Latin quotation from Virgil pinned to the dummy with a knife.
But this objection did not carry a great deal of weight with me. I thought there must be something special about a passage that describes hideous and unnatural females who snatch the meat from men's mouths.
When I first heard of that, I felt sure there was a man behind it all.
That was probably a sound instinct, as will become clear. My first task was to find out whether Mr. Vine had ever actually murdered or injured anybody.
Do you mean to say that the interminable discussion that night was intended merely to bring out Mr. Vine's story about the man's thesis?
I'm afraid it was. And the next day I asked Mr. Vine for the name of the man in question. He was Arthur Robinson.
And did you find out what happened to him?
He was married to a woman called Charlotte Ann Clark, who had been his landlady's daughter. They had two children, Beatrice and Carola.
Beatrice and Carola?
After the trouble over the thesis, he changed his name to Wilson and took a post as a junior master in a prep school. But I'm afraid he took to drink. Lost that job and took another. Lost that, and 3 years ago he blew his brains out.
Oh no.
There were photographs in the local paper. Here it is. A fair, handsome man. Something of my nephew's type. And here is a photograph of his widow.
Yes, that is Annie Wilson.
If you read the report of the inquest, you will see that he left a letter saying that he had been hounded to death. It contained a Latin quotation which the coroner translated.
Tristius haudilis monstrum
The
nex
lines that were
aevio.
pinned to the dummy.
So you were right, Miss Hilliard. A man was behind it. Annie Wilson, being obliged to do something to support her children and herself, went into service and applied for a job here. She probably knew that as a widow with two children she would receive kindly consideration.
What did I tell you? I always said that ridiculous sentimentality about married women would be the ruin of this college.
Poor soul, brooding over her grievance in such an unbalanced way. If only we had known, we could have surely done something to make her see things in a more rational light. Well, did it never occur to you, Mr. Vine, to inquire what happened to that unhappy man?
I'm afraid it did not.
Why should you?
So it was Annie Wilson who attacked Miss Vane?
Oh, yes. I find it difficult to forgive myself for not having spoken earlier, with or without proof, to put the suspect under observation.
Oh, nonsense. If you had, she might have chucked the whole thing for the rest of term, and we should still know nothing. I wasn't much hurt.
No, but it might not have been you. I knew you were willing to take the risk, but I had no right to expose Mr. Vine.
Well, it seems to me that the risk was rightly and properly mine.
But if Annie really did this dreadful thing, how does she come to get shut in the coal hole?
Excuse me, Madam Warden, ladies.
I think we are about to discover that.
Here you are, Lord Peter. Here's the cellar key, right at the bottom of the coal heap.
So, she locked herself in and hid the key in a desperate attempt to divert suspicion from herself. Thank you, Paget.
One moment, Paget. I want to see Annie Wilson. Will you please find her and bring her here?
I don't think that is a very good idea.
You have made a public accusation against this unfortunate woman, and it is only right that she should be given the chance to answer it. Bring her here at once, Paget.
Annie came in wan and subdued, and then she noticed the newspaper containing the photographs of herself and her husband spread out upon the table. Her eyes went round the room like a hunted animal.
Annie, certain allegations have been made against you concerning the disturbances in this college, and I have sent for you in order that you might clear yourself.
Clear myself? I wouldn't trouble to clear myself. I'd like to see you bring me into court. How would you look, you smug hypocrites, sitting there while I told the judge how that woman killed my husband?
I am exceedingly disturbed. I knew nothing of this until just now. But I could not foresee the consequences. I mean, even if I had...
You wouldn't have cared. You killed him and you didn't care. What harm had he done to anybody? He only wanted to live and be happy. He told a lie about somebody who was dead as dust hundreds of years ago. Nobody was the worse for that. Was a dirty piece of paper more important than our lives and happiness? You broke him, and you killed him. Do you think that's a woman's job?
Most unhappily, it was my job.
What business had you with a job like that? A woman's job is to look after her husband and children. I loved my husband and you broke his heart. If he'd have been a thief and a murderer, I'd have loved him and stuck to him.
Annie, you must surely understand that...
Understand? What do any of you understand with all your books and your learning? You're ignorant and stupid and helpless, you silly old hags. You even had to get a man to do your work for you. You brought him here, Miss Vane, and you're the dirtiest hypocrite of the lot. You had a lover once and he died. You chucked him out because you were too proud to marry him. You were his mistress and you sucked him dry. And what are you going to do with this one here? You send for him when you need him to do your dirty work, and when you've finished with him, you'll get rid of him. You'll use him like any other tool to break me. You'd like to see me in prison and my children in an home because you haven't got the guts to do your proper job in the world. The whole bunch of you together haven't got flesh and blood enough to make you fit for a man. And as for you, your lordship, you rotten little white-faced rat, it's men like you that make women like this. You don't know how to do anything but talk. That woman's making a fool of you and you can't even see it. But what are you going to do now, all of you? Run away to the magistrate because I made fools of you all? You daren't touch me. You're afraid of me. I had a husband, and I loved him, and you killed him. You killed him, and we never had a happy moment ever again.
For heaven's sake, can't this be stopped?
No, come, Annie. We're all very sorry for you, but you mustn't behave in this hysterical way. What would your children... Now, shh. You better come and lie down quietly and take some aspirin, bless her. Will you help me out with her?
I apologise for allowing this scene to take place. I ought to have known better, Lord Peter. You were perfectly right.
Of course he was right. He's always right. He said it was dangerous to care for anybody. He said love was the devil. Oh, God, get me out of here. I'm going to be sick.
And of course, Miss Devine, no sane person could think of blaming you.
Nobody, perhaps, but myself.
Lord Peter, a little later on, when we are feeling more ourselves, I think we should like to say that we're...
Please don't. It doesn't matter at all.
Then I think we should bring to an end these proceedings. Good afternoon.
I do blame myself. Most bitterly. Not for my original action. but for the sequel.
But surely...
Nothing you can say to me could make me feel more responsible than I do already.
I can have nothing to say. Like you and every member of this common room, I admit the principle, and the consequences must follow.
Yes, but that won't do. One ought to take some thought for other people. Miss Lydgate would have done what I did in the first place, but she would have made it her business to see what became of that unhappy man and his wife.
Miss Lydgate is a very rare person, but she couldn't prevent other people from suffering for her principles. That seems to be what principles are for, somehow.
How much are you going to suffer for this?
Oh, God knows, that's my lookout. In any case, you know I'm with you. Every time.
Oh, thank heaven they've gone. I'm afraid I made rather an exhibition of myself.
Well...
What's happened to Peter?
Oh, he's gone too. Miss Vane, I've no wish to pry impertinently into your affairs, but we've had to face a good many facts this afternoon. Isn't it time you faced the facts about this man?
I have been facing one fact for some time. That is that if I once gave way to Peter, I should go up like straw.
Oh, that is moderately obvious. How often has he used that weapon against you?
Never.
Then what are you afraid of? Yourself?
Isn't this afternoon warning enough?
Perhaps. But I really don't think you can go on like this. He looks like a person pushed to the last verge of endurance.
I should make his life a misery.
Very well. If you are determined that you are not fit to lick his boots, tell him so and send him away.
I've been trying to send Peter away for 5 years. It doesn't have that effect on him.
If you had really tried, you could have sent him away in 5 minutes. He'll never make up your mind for you. You needn't be afraid of losing your independence. He'll always force it back on you.
If you were me, would you marry a man like that?
Well, frankly, I should not. A marriage of two independent and equally irritable intelligences seems to me reckless to the point of insanity. You can hurt each other so dreadfully.
I know, and I don't think I can stand being hurt anymore.
Then I suggest you stop hurting other people. Face the facts and state a conclusion. Bring a scholar's mind to the problem and have done with it.
There was no word from Peter in the morning, and I was in no mood to face the senior common room. I took myself off to the Radcliffe camera to try to occupy my mind with Sheridan Le Fanu. Shortly after noon, a hand touched my shoulder.
Harriet, they told me I'd find you here. Can you spare a moment? We could go up to the gallery if you wish.
Of course.
I understand that poor Annie's problem is being medically dealt with.
Oh, yes. When the academic mind has really grasped a hypothesis, which may take a little time, of course, it copes with thoroughness and efficiency. Nothing will be overlooked.
One can only hope she survives the process.
We walked out onto the gallery of the camera. The sun was shining upon a shining city. All Oxford springing underneath in living leaf and enduring stone, tinged far off by her sheltering blue hills.
Harriet, I want to ask your forgiveness for these last 5 years.
I think it ought to be the other way round.
No, I think not. When I remember how first we met...
Peter, I was sick of myself, body and soul. I didn't know what I was doing.
I had found you beyond all hope and expectation at a time when I thought no woman could ever mean anything to me beyond a little easy exchange of pleasure. I was so terrified of losing you before I could grasp you that I babbled out all my greed and fear, as though, God help me, you had nothing to think of but me and my windy self-importance.
Oh, Peter.
My dear, you showed me what you thought of me when you said you would live with me but never marry me.
Don't. I'm ashamed of that.
Ah, not so bitterly ashamed as I've been. It has taken me a long time to learn my lesson, Harriet. I've had to pull down, brick by brick, the barriers I had built by my own selfishness.
Peter, it's not fair to let you talk like this. It's I who ought to apologize. If I owe you nothing else, I owe you my self-respect, and I owe you my life.
Ah, but I've given you that back by letting you risk it the other night, and nearly losing it in the process. That was the last kick that sent my vanity out of doors.
Peter, I did manage to appreciate that. I heard that you collected 5 summonses for speeding on your drive from London to here. Mayn't I be grateful?
I don't want your gratitude.
But won't you take it now that I want to give it to you?
Then I have no right to refuse. Let that clear all scores, Harriet. You've given me far more than you know. You are free now and forever, as far as I'm concerned. You saw yesterday what personal claims might lead to, though I didn't intend you to see it quite that brutal way. But I couldn't see how I could have prevented it.
Yes, you wouldn't falsify the facts to support a thesis.
What would have been the good? What could I ever have gained by letting you imagine a lie? I set out in a lordly way to offer you heaven and earth. I find that all I have to give you is Oxford, which was yours already. Enter into your heritage.
Peter, Oh, damn.
No, don't worry. It's quite all right. Hey, it looks as though I may have to go back to Rome next week. But I shan't leave Oxford till Monday. On Sunday there's a concert at Balliol. You'll have to wear your gown again, I'm afraid. But will you come to it? We'll have one other Gaudy Night and comfort our souls with a Bach concerto for 2 violins. And after that, I shall be clearing out and leaving you to...
To what?
To whatever you wish. Your writing, to Oxford perhaps. But say you'll come. It's a beautiful night. Far too good to waste. Don't go back yet. Come down to Morton Bridge and send your love to London River. There's something about this place that alters one's values. I've said a good deal to you one way and another lately. But you may have noticed that since we came to Oxford, I have not asked you to marry me.
Yes, I had noticed it.
I'd been afraid because I knew that from anything you said to me here, there could be no going back. But I will ask you now. And if you say no, I promise that this time I will accept your answer. Harriet, you know that I love you. Will you marry me?
Tell me one thing, Peter. Will it make you desperately unhappy if I say no?
Desperately? Oh, my dear, I will not insult either you or myself with a word like that. I can only tell you that if you will marry me, it will give me very great happiness.
I reached out and laid my hands on the fronts of his gown, searching for words. But it was Peter who found them for me, in the Latin of the degree ceremony, where the Vice-Chancellor takes off his cap and asks whether it pleases the doctors of the university that a candidate should be admitted to a degree. Peter bared his head and stood with his mortarboard in his hand.
Plaquette, magistrat?
Plaquette.
Harriet.
And the proctor, stumping grimly past, averted his eyes from the spectacle of 2 senior members of the university in their academic gowns, passionately embracing.